Good evening.
Hi, Director. How are you?
I'm great. How's everybody? Bill, we were talking about you today. We were talking about the electric service for Summerfest. And rumor has it that you are the guy with the electric know-how there to make that happen. And I don't know if you have magic powder that you get to have First Energy help you with this, but I've been told that you're the guy. Yep. You know what, Bill? I can't. I know you're not on mute because I don't see you, but I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you hear me?
Bill, I think you're on mute. I can hear you fine, Mary Kay.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, not yet, Bill. You'll have to hold up signs. I don't know if
Well, I don't know if he can vote by sign.
I know.
He's
It's
got to
true.
get his audio working here.
Yeah. Bill, is there a way that you could, I wonder if you, well, I was just wondering if maybe re-signing in would help. Because I don't see your mute on. We should be able to hear you.
Bill, is your volume up on your laptop, your computer?
Oh,
You have no audio.
You know, you could call in with your cell phone, can't you? And just use the audio from the cell phone then. That's possible.
sometimes there's an echo
Yeah.
as you're hearing it in your ear and you hear it in your laptop, but he could at least have an audible vote.
Bill, do you want to try signing out and signing back in?
You hear me now?
Yes. We're good.
Thanks.
Good job, Bill.
Good troubleshooting, everybody.
Yep.
Teamwork.
All right, everyone. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Mike?
Good. Thank you.
Good.
Maureen, did you receive my email?
I did.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have all of our council members here? I believe.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, committee reports. Everyone have the committee reports ready?
Yes.
Okay. As far as the legislative agenda, I'm going to entertain a motion to add the construction resources ordinance that was left off the agenda for first reading for finance. All right.
Yep.
Got it.
Okay, Sari, you're good with your ordinance for first read?
I am, thank you.
Okay, Bridget as well.
Yes.
Bridget, you have an ordinance and a resolution for second.
Yep.
Okay, Bill, you have a resolution for without three reads.
Yes.
Bridget, you as well?
Yep.
Yeah, two. Okay. And an ordinance. Two ordinances. Okay. And then Bill, you have legislation for third and final.
Yes.
And then Sarah, you have an ordinance, and Bridget, you have
4,
four.
5.
Busy night we have tonight.
Yes.
All right, so everyone's square on their legislation.
Yes.
Okay. Looks like we have a couple emails to read for public session. Liz, are you with us?
I am
How you feeling?
not good.
Not so hot, yeah. If you'd like, I can read these letters in public session. Okay. I also will be announcing that the council met in executive session on May 17th and June 1st this evening. And that's about all from me. Brian, do you have anything?
Not tonight. No.
William?
I have a Board of Control report, Mike, at the end of the agenda.
Maureen?
No, I don't have anything to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah?
Thank you. Mary Kay, I'm going to give you a call this week. I've been getting some questions from residents about the ponding that happens in their backyards. And I'm curious, generally it's their property, but I'm curious if we could brainstorm together about maybe some possible grant funding for health and safety that might help us to mitigate some of that problems in the city. So I just wanted to give you that heads up so you can be thinking about it before I give you a call. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Sarah. Bridget?
I just wanted to make sure everyone noticed that ordinance 2142 and 43 are not returning to committee, but were put on emergency read. And those are the police vehicles. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that.
Okay.
And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg?
Nothing additional. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat, did you want to add anything? Mayor, you with us? He's gone. Okay, I guess that will do it for our caucus.
That's back. The mayor's back.
Pat, did you want to say anything before we adjourn caucus?
Yeah, thanks. Just wanted to let people know, I think we sent out an email about TextMyGov. If you have any comments or suggestions on that, please let us know. There was an announcement sent out earlier this afternoon about splash pads that at the Gemini will be open starting on Friday, the 11th, I believe from 10 o'clock to 7:30 during the week, and then from 10 o'clock to 2:30 on the weekends. And then the Wharton splash pad will be open Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, Sunday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. We're having some staffing issues, which makes it difficult to keep some of these things open. And then I know with Wharton, it's a pretty labor intensive operation there with that splash pad. So that's an update on that. And I have some other items, for the committee, for my report, but I think that's it, unless anybody has any questions.
Anyone have any questions for the mayor? All righty. Well, we'll start the regular council meeting in about 20 minutes. See how that. All right, everybody, it's 7 o'clock. The meeting of the Council of the City of Fairview Park for Monday, June 7th, 2021 is now called to order. Have a moment of silent reflection. Have the clerk please call roll.
Mr. Simmerly.
Here.
Mr. Minnick.
Here.
Ms. Sadler.
Here.
Mr. Kilbane.
Here.
Mrs. Waring.
Here.
Mrs. King.
Here.
Mr. Berger.
Present.
We will have this evening's committee reports with the Environment, Public Works, Planning, Zoning, and Development. Councilman Minnick.
Thank you, Council President. The Environment, Public Works, Planning, Zoning, and Development Committee met on Monday, May 24th, 2021 at 7 p.m. via Zoom and YouTube to discuss 4 issues. Members of Council, Mayor Cooney, and Public Service Development Director Costello participated in the discussions. The chair presented an FYI that 3 of the 4 issues to be discussed this evening have been in committee for over 5 years with noted updates that have been completed prior to COVID-19. Each issue will be discussed, and unless any warranted updates are mentioned, the chair would make motions to remove from committee. Any issue removed can always, upon new learned information, be reassigned. Garbage receptacles code 1325.05. Assigned to committee on 10/5/20. On 10/12/20, we discussed storage, retrieval, violation, enforcement, and emails from residents. The administration was to research with other cities, look at our code, and review for possible amendments. Due to COVID-19 and a change in the entire working schedule, the administration was limited in their research. Mayor Cooney stated, no additional issues have been brought up recently to the building department. Because of the COVID-19, public participation was limited. A motion to issue remaining committee was approved 6-0. Community development, assigned a committee on 10/5/15, almost 6 years. All the updates prior to COVID-19 have been completed. Council passed the ordinance with restrictions allowing businesses to increase their outdoor patio area. The administration is meeting periodically with the Chamber of Commerce and the business community. As no new information is available, a motion to remove this issue from committee was approved 6-0. Municipal facilities maintenance, assigned to committee on 9/8/15. Once again, almost 6 years. All the updates prior to COVID-19 have been completed. It is apparent all our facilities are aging. Council President Kilbane and Mayor Cooney both commented on 2 important projects, namely the Gemini roof and the roof at City Hall, which is leaking as evidence of brown ceiling tiles. A motion to issue remaining committee was approved 7-0. Sewers, assigned to committee on 5/19/2014, 7 years. All the updates, once again, prior to COVID-19 had been completed. The last major sewer work was Clifford Drive, and the administration applied via City Council resolution supporting the community projects funding efforts of the United States Congress to fund the Woodstock-Stanford Regional Sewer Remediation Environmental Improvement Project in year 2022. Director Costello commented on flooding issues in Ward 5, and Councilwoman Waring inquired pertaining to flooding issues in Ward 4. It was informed the administration is checking all issues. A motion to issue remaining committee was approved 7-0. The chair requested the administration provide to City Council periodic updates when learned pertaining to garbage receptacles, municipal facilities maintenance, and sewers. This completes my report, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Minnick. We will now have the Local Government and Community Services Committee report. Councilwoman Waring.
Thank you, Council President. It took me just an extra second to unmute. The Local Government and Community Services Committee met via teleconference on Monday, May 24th, beginning at 7:13 p.m. The committee discussed Ordinance 2133, amending Section 92906, Solid Waste Collection Charges Expiration Date. This ordinance was previously discussed but remained in committee to allow the entirety of council to weigh in, as there were absences during the previous council meeting. To recap, current homeowners are charged $10 per month on their property taxes to supplement the collection of rubbish in the city. Councilwoman King asked if there was any plan to increase this fee, given that in June of 2022, we anticipate the fee will rise by nearly $6 per household. Director Costello weighed in and suggested that until we know what our next steps are, it does not make sense to increase the household fee, even though raising costs are likely inevitable. It currently costs the city $11.75 per household to collect rubbish. Mayor Cooney agreed that he would like to have a structured plan prior to deciding what the fees will be in the future. The solid waste fund expense in 2020 was $719,000. The general fund subsidized the collection and disposal of solid waste, a total of $340,000. A motion to place this ordinance on third reading and final passage passed by 7-0. The committee discussed the issue temporary political signs, FPCO 1145.18. This issue became a hot button during the 2019 election, during which political signs were posted long before the ordinance allowed, and many community members voiced dissatisfaction. However, per City Law Director Tim Riley, portions of Section 1145.18 are unenforceable based on current case law from the United States Supreme Court. At this point in time, the city is not enforcing the unconstitutional provisions, so it is not subject to liability. It is Director Riley's opinion that council could repeal this ordinance at any time or keep it on the books and continue to not enforce any provisions that would subject the city to potential litigation. The chair noted that municipalities do have the ability to regulate the size of sign, the materials it's made of, the location and number of signs allowed to be on a property. And in Fairview, we do already have many of those restrictions. The chair also noted that homeowners associations do have the right to restrict political signs, and this is not affected by the Supreme Court's decision on free speech, because living in a homeowners association controlled environment means that you have already voluntarily given up rights that you would have otherwise in other neighborhoods. The committee entertained two pathways. One is to repeal the legislation and ensure our laws regulate size, materials, and numbers, which are not protected speech, or to leave this ordinance on the books should a new Supreme Court decision be made. Mayor Cooney advised that First Amendment rights are respected by the administration. He also suggested that we take the time to review our entire signage legislation to make sure we are not creating any issues during the repeal. Councilwoman Adler requested that we review the signage legislation to make sure that we are addressing laws to make sure they regulate size, materials, and such. A motion to begin the process of repealing this ordinance passed 7-0. A motion to remove the issue of temporary political signs from committee, with the understanding that we will add the issue of legislation review related to signage to committee, passed 7-0. The committee entertained the issue boards and commissions meeting schedules. Currently, the city has 2 inactive and 8 active boards and commissions. For security reasons, council is considering moving committee meetings to the dais rather than in the committee room, but this will overlap with other commission meetings. Additionally, when there are 2 committee or commissions happening at the same time, it creates scheduling conflicts. For example, a Board of Zoning and Appeals meeting occurs at the same time as a council committee meeting. Parks and Recreation and Planning and Design also overlap. Council is currently entertaining the idea of moving evenings or locations for these meetings, spread out across the month so administration staff do not have overlapping deadlines. Any changes will begin in January 2022 to allow for planning and adjustment. The mayor volunteered to speak to the boards to develop a proposal for how they might change the schedule. A motion to remain in committee passed 7-0. Local government and community services ended at 7:51 p.m. Thank you, Council President. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman Waring. We will now have the Finance Committee report. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. The Finance Committee met via video conference on Monday, May 24th, 2021 at 7:51 p.m. 5 ordinances and 1 resolution were discussed. Ordinance 2135, authorizing application and administration for the 2021 CMAQ application. This ordinance allows grant funds for such things as city traffic engineer, updated traffic signals, that communicate with each other so traffic can move smoothly through the city, and looks at intersections to make sure that they are safe for pedestrian traffic. $1.7 million is the estimate on the upgrades. A motion was made to have this ordinance on third read and final passage, and it passed with a vote of 7-0. Ordinance 2139, solid waste fee special assessment for the tax year of 2022. This ordinance was left in committee so that every member of council had an opportunity to ask questions. Many questions were answered during the solid waste discussion during local government and community services. The city is currently charging $10 per month per household and subsidizing the remaining amount through the general fund. A motion was made to have this ordinance be on third read and final passage, and that passed with a vote of 7-0. Ordinance 2141, accepting the 2021 NOPEC Energized Community Grant Fund. The city has been awarded a grant for the amount of $47,011. This money will be set aside with the other awarded NOPEC grant money and will be used on a large energy efficient project. A motion was made to have this placed on second and subsequent third reading, and that passed with a vote of 7-0. Ordinance 2142, authorizing purchase of cruisers for police department, and Ordinance 2143, authorizing purchase of a pickup for the police department, were discussed together. These two ordinances were discussed together. These ordinances are for 2 new cruisers and a pickup for the police department. A question was asked if these purchases could be pushed off to 2022, and the mayor assured us that they could not. A question was asked if the vehicles would be available in a timely manner since there's a national chip delay, and the mayor is not aware of any delays at this time. The mayor was going to check to see if if the accessories in the Exhibit A for the cruisers were also needed for the pickup, and if so, an amended Ordinance 2143 would be submitted to council. A motion was made to have both Ordinance 2142 and 43 on second read and return to committee, and that passed with a vote of 7-0. Resolution 2104, Alternative Tax Budget 2022. This ordinance is a standard operating piece of legislation which allows the county to set the tax rate for the city. A motion was made to have this on second and subsequent third read, and that passed with a vote of 7-0. The Finance Committee concluded at 8:06 p.m. And this concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman King. Okay, at this time, the chair will now entertain a motion to amend the agenda to add an ordinance for first reading.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion to amend the agenda?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Carries. The agenda is amended. We'll now begin the legislative agenda with legislation for first reading. Councilwoman Waring.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to place one ordinance up for first reading.
Okay, will the clerk please assign a number and read the title?
Ordinance 2144, requested by Mayor Patrick J. Cooney, sponsored by Councilwoman Waring. An ordinance amending section 129.01A entitled Composition of Chapter 129 entitled Police Department of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Fairview Park and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Ordinance 2124 is placed on first reading and assigned to the Local Government and Community Services Committee. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place 4 ordinances up for first read tonight.
Okay, thank you. The clerk please assign numbers and read the titles.
Ordinance 2145, requested by Mary Kay Costello, Director of Public Service and Development, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the purchase of one motorized grinder system, AKA Muffin Monster, at a price not to exceed $22,697.31 from JWC Environmental and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 2146, requested by Mary Kay Costello, Director of Public Service and Development, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing emergency work and related costs regarding the investigation of the Gemini Center dehumidifier equipment, desiccant equipment, and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 2147, requested by Mary Kay Costello, Director of Public Service and Development, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Development to engage Construction Resources Incorporated and their respective consulting experts to prepare drawings and construction documents for the replacement of the dehumidification equipment and other improvements to the natatorium space at the Gemini Center and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 2148, requested by Mary Kay Costello, Director of Public Service and Development, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Development to advertise for bids and the mayor to enter into a contract with the lowest responsive and responsible bidder as determined by the Board of Control to install new dehumidification devices and related improvements to the natatorium space at the Gemini Center and declaring an emergency. Mike, you're on mute.
Ordinances 2145, 2146, 2147, and 2148 are placed on first reading and assigned to the Finance Committee. We'll now have legislation for second reading. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place Ordinance 2141 and Resolution 2104 up for second read.
Okay, would the clerk please read the titles?
Ordinance 2141, requested by Mary Kay Costello, Director of Public Service and Development, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance accepting the 2021 Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council NOPEC Energize Grant Community Grant to provide financial assistance for energy efficiency projects or energy infrastructure improvements, and authorizing the city administration to file all documents and execute all agreements necessary to receive any awarded grant funds and declaring an emergency. Resolution 2104, originated by the Finance Department, sponsored by Councilwoman King. A resolution adopting the alternative tax budget of the City of Fairview Park, State of Ohio for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2022, and submitting the same to the Cuyahoga County Fiscal Officer and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Ordinance 2141 and Resolution 2104 are placed on second and third reading. Liz, we received no audience input on legislation that's up for passage.
No.
Thank you. Okay, we will now have legislation for passage without three readings. Councilman Minnick.
Thank you, Council President. A resolution to be placed before council for emergency passage.
Clerk, please assign a member and read the title.
Resolution 2105, requested by Mayor Patrick J. Cooney, sponsored by Council President Kilbane and Councilman Minnick, co-sponsored by Councilmembers Simmerly, Adler, Waring, King, and Berger. A resolution extending the establishment of temporary outdoor patio dining areas and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Councilman Minnick.
Thank you, Council President. I move the Charter Provision Rule 49, requiring the resolution be read at 3 separate meetings be suspended and then be placed before council for emergency passage.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion?
Mr. Simmerly.
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Carries. Councilman Minnick.
Thank you, Council President. I move that Rule 53, requiring a reference to committee, be dispensed with, and the resolution be placed on final passage.
So moved. Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Carries. Prior to call for passage of resolution 2105, is there any further discussion?
Council President,
Councilman Minnick.
thank you. I'd like to thank Mayor Cooney and his administration, our clerk, and members of council for their support in this resolution. This is the third resolution in support of our businesses during this pandemic, and hope all of our businesses can open very soon to the normal routine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Minnick. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of resolution 2105?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Resolution 2005 passes. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place Resolution 2106 up for emergency passage.
Okay, will the clerk please read the title?
Resolution 2106, requested by Mayor Patrick J. Cooney, sponsored by City Council. A resolution supporting the City of Fairview Park's fiscal year 2022 congressionally directed spending request to the United States Senate to fund the Bain Park Cabin and Bridge Historic Restoration Project and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to make a motion to suspend the charter provision and Rule 49 requiring 3 reads.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Motion carries. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to make a motion to dispense with Rule 53 requiring reference to committee.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Carries. Prior to call for passage of resolution 2106, is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of resolution 2106?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Cobain,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
106 passes. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place Resolution 2107 up for emergency passage tonight.
Okay, would the clerk please read the title?
Resolution 2107, requested by Mayor Patrick J. Cooney, sponsored by City Council. A resolution supporting the City of Fairview Park's fiscal year 2022 congressionally directed spending request to the United States Senate to fund the Gemini Regional Civic Improvement Project and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place a motion to suspend the charter provision in Rule 49 requiring 3 reads.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion?
Mr. Summerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Carries. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place a motion to dispense with Rule 53 requiring reference to committee.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion?
Mr. Summerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Motion carries. Prior to call for passage of Resolution 2107, is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll passage of Resolution 2107?
Mr. Summerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
I would like to place Ordinance 2142 up for emergency passage tonight. Mike, you're not on mute, but I can't hear you. I don't know if I'm the only one.
I can't either.
Me either.
Now, anything
Yes, that's better.
better?
Yes.
Stranger than fiction. Okay, would the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2142, requested by Paul Shepard, Chief of Police, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract through the Ohio Department of Administrative Services Cooperative Purchasing Program with statewide Ford Lincoln for the acquisition of 2 Ford Police Interceptor K8A cruisers and for the purchase of accessories and equipment for said cruisers for the police department and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place a motion to suspend charter provision and Rule 49 requiring 3 reads.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion?
Mr. Simmerly,
yes,
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
yes,
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
yes,
Mr. Berger,
yes,
Motion carries. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2142, is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2142?
Mr. Simmerly,
yes,
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
yes,
Mr. Kilbane. Mike, your mic went out again.
Yes.
I think it's just because you're back for a little bit.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
yes,
Mr. Berger,
yes,
The ordinance 2142 passes. Councilwoman King,
thank you, Council President. I would like to place ordinance 2143 up for emergency passage tonight.
thank you. Will the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2143, requested by Paul Shepherd, Chief of Police, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract through the Ohio Department of Administrative Services Cooperative Purchasing Program with Valley Ford of Huron Incorporated for the acquisition of one Ford F-150 4x4 crew cab pickup truck for the police department and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Councilwoman King,
Thank you, Council President. I would like to make a motion to suspend the charter provision in Rule 49 requiring 3 reads.
so moved. Do I have a second?
second,
Any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion?
Mr. Simmerly,
yes,
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
yes,
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes,
Mr. Berger,
yes,
Carries. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2143, is there any discussion?
Council President,
Councilwoman King,
I would like to make a motion to amend and add language for additional amounts and exhibits detailing the costs.
so moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion to amend?
Mr. Simmerly,
yes,
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
yes,
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes,
Mr. Berger,
yes,
Carries. The ordinance is amended. Okay, prior to call for passage of ordinance 2143 amended, is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2143 amended?
Mr. Simmerly,
yes,
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
yes,
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
yes,
Mr. Berger,
yes,
Ordinance 2143 amended passes. We will now have legislation for third reading and final passage. Councilman Minnick,
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to place ordinance 2131 on third reading and up for passage.
thank you. Will the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2131, requested by Mary Kay Costello, Director of Public Service and Development, sponsored by Councilman Minnick, co-sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing McKay Engineering and Surveying Company, city engineer, to prepare plans and specifications and provide construction administration, inspection, and bidding services for the installation of sidewalks and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2131, is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2131?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Ordinance 2131 passes. Councilman Dominic?
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place ordinance 2132 on third reading and up for passage.
Okay, thank you. Clerk, please read the title.
Ordinance 2132, requested by Mary Kay Costello, Director of Public Service and Development, sponsored by Councilman Minnick, co-sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Development to advertise for bids and the mayor to enter into a contract with the lowest responsive and responsible bidder as determined by the Board of Control to install new sidewalks, curbs, and curb ramps in the southeast section of the city and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Prior to calling roll for passage of ordinance 2132, is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2132?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Ordinance 2132 passes. Councilwoman Waring?
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to place ordinance 2133 up for third reading and final passage.
Okay, thank you. Clerk, please read the title.
Ordinance 2133, requested by the Finance Department, sponsored by Councilwoman Waring. An ordinance amending section 929.06 of chapter 929 entitled Solid Waste Collection Charges of the codified ordinances of the city of Fairview Park and declaring an emergency.
Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2133, is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2133?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Ordinance 2133 passes. Councilwoman King?
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place ordinance 2135 up for third read and final passage.
Okay, thank you. Clerk, please read the title.
Ordinance 2135, requested by Mary Kay Costello, Director of Public Service and Development, sponsored by Councilwoman King, co-sponsored by Councilwoman Minnick. An ordinance supporting and authorizing the submission of a 2021 application to the Northeast Ohio Area-Wide Coordinating Agency for the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Program to provide financial assistance for the Lorraine Road Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Project and authorizing the mayor to accept any awarded grant funds and file all documents and execute all agreements necessary to receive any awarded grant funds and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2135, is there any discussion? And hearing none, the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2135.
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Cobain,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
5 passes. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place ordinance 2136 up for third read and final passage tonight.
Thank you. Will the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2136, requested by Mary Kay Costello, Director of Public Service and Development, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance supporting and authorizing the submission of an application to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources for round 27 of the NatureWorks grant program to provide financial assistance for the replacement of the playground at Bain Park. Documents and execute all agreements necessary to receive and administer any awarded grant funds and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2136, is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, of the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2136.
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane, Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
Ordinance 2136 passes. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place ordinance 2137 up for third read and final passage tonight.
Thank you. Will the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2137, requested by Mary Kay Costello, Director of Public Service and Development, sponsored by Councilwoman King, co-sponsored by Councilman Minnick. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Development to advertise for bids and the mayor to enter into a contract with the lowest responsive and responsible bidder as determined by the Board of Control for the installation of a connector pathway at Vulcan Park and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2137, is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2137.
Mr. Simmerly.
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
Ordinance 2137 passes. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I would like to place ordinance 2139 up for third read and final passage tonight.
Thank you. Will the clerk please read the title?
I think we're on 2138.
38.
Oh,
Okay, so ordinance 2138, requested by Mary Kay Costello, Director of Public Service and Development, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Development and the Director of Finance to sell obsolete vehicles from the city's police fleet through the Greater Cleveland Auto Auction and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2138, is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2138?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Ordinance 2138 passes. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. I would now like to place ordinance 2139 up for third read and final passage.
Thank you. Will the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2139, requested by the Finance Department, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance levying special assessments for collection of the monthly charge for collection of solid waste in the city of Fairview Park, Ohio, for the tax year 2022 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2139, is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2139?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Ordinance 2139 passes. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. Finally, tonight, I'd like to place ordinance 2140 up for third read and final passage.
Okay, thank you. Will the clerk please read the title?
Ordinance 2140, originated by the Finance Department, requested by Mayor Patrick J. Cooney, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance
Did anyone hear that?
I did not.
No.
Okay, it just,
Try again, Liz.
wow. Can you hear me?
I hear, yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Ordinance 2140, originated by the Finance Department, requested by Mayor Patrick J. Cooney, sponsored by Councilwoman King. An ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of all of the streets of Fairview Park, Ohio, providing and supplying said streets with electric street lighting for the tax years 2022 and 2023, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Prior to call for passage of ordinance 2140, is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on passage of ordinance 2140?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger,
Yes.
Ordinance 2140 passes. And that will conclude our legislative agenda for this evening. We'll now have reports of communications from the mayor and his directors. Mayor Cooney, if you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President Kilbane. Good evening, everybody. Tomorrow is the last day of service for Lieutenant Jeff Reimer of the Fairview Park Fire Department. I'd like to thank Lieutenant Reimer for his 33 years of service to the citizens of Fairview Park and wish him a long and happy retirement. On Friday, June 11th, I will be swearing in firefighter paramedic Stan Barkowitz to replace Lieutenant Reimer. So Mr. Barkowitz will be sworn in as a lieutenant this coming Friday, and we wish him luck in that position. And earlier today, I had the privilege of swearing in our newest firefighter paramedic, Dylan Wester. Dylan is continuing a family tradition, serving in the fire department ranks. His father is a firefighter paramedic for the city of Parma. We're excited to have Dylan joining us here in Fairview Park, and we wish him a long, healthy, and safe career here with the city. He's going to be working, getting some training, doing some 40-hour weeks, and hopefully soon we'll be on a regular shift. And again, we wish him nothing but the best. The building department on next Monday, June 14th, they will have a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. On Wednesday, June 16th, Planning and Design Commission will also have a meeting. I've been told by the commissioner that there's a lot of permit activity going on in the city, which is a good sign. Just that people to be aware of that when they're submitting their applications or requesting permits. When they're visiting City Hall, they can leave an application or any other correspondence in the drop box outside the building department's office. If they want to come in person and have a meeting with the building department personnel, that's available. But we would encourage people to have their paperwork prepared before they come to City Hall to ensure a quicker turnaround. The Senior Center opened up last week. There were a lot of card games there, as I'm sure Councilman Minnick could attest to. We were happy to have our seniors back. I know they were happy to be back. Director Brandos and the staff really did a good job getting ready for them. And there was a couple of programs that had last week. They have a number of things planned. And the big event will be on June 28th, which is National Bingo Day. And bingo will be back at the Senior Center. So I know people are excited for that. We're excited to have them, and appreciate everybody's patience as we were able to work on getting people back together. The Rec Department, their commission meeting has been rescheduled from Wednesday, June 16th to Wednesday, June 23rd at the Gemini Center. The Flea Fest will be held on Saturday, June 26th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. In the parking lot of Fairview High School. Our private swim lessons and Gemini Swim Team and Gemini Swim Academy, there are signups still available for those programs. You can contact Eric Dennis, our aquatics coordinator at the Gemini, about those programs. He can be reached at Eric, eric.dennis@fairviewpark.org, or you can give him a call at the Gemini Center. The splash pads are going to be open starting at the Gemini Center on this coming Friday at 10 a.m. They'll be open at 10 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, and on Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. That coincides with the hours of the Gemini Center. That it's helpful with staffing, and we're having some staffing challenges, as a lot of other businesses are right now. To use the splash pad at the Gemini Center, you need to be either a member or purchase a guest pass. 10-year children 10 years old or older do not have to be accompanied by an adult. The Wharton Park splash pad will be open Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. That is available to any Fairview Park resident. And once again, there's staffing challenges there, which we've been able to work through, and we're happy to get that up and running. The tennis courts at Morton Park are not safe, and they're not going to be in playable condition this year. We encourage people to go to Tri-City Park to use the tennis courts. The service department, the West 210 project will be beginning in 2 weeks on June 21st. There'll be some preliminary milling work done that week, and then the zone setups will begin on June 28th. That's going to be a big project. There's going to be a lot of zones changes and a lot of coordination with the service department, police department, fire department, as well as our contractors. I would encourage people to contact Kathleen Fayan at City Hall. We're going to have an email constant contact update list. As things change there, or as announcements can be made, we'll be sending those out to people. So it's one of those, it's a price of progress. It's going to be inconvenient for the period of time while this work is going on, but it's much needed work, as some of you, I'm sure, know, and as some of our residents know. So we appreciate everybody's patience. If you have any questions on the project, please reach out to Director Costello or myself. The police department, they began their park patrol on Memorial Day weekend. I'd like to thank our auxiliary officers for their work on this important detail. Obviously there's a lot of activity now in the parks, and they're out there nearly every day keeping an eye on things, and we really appreciate that. The Helmet Smart project will begin soon. If a Fairview Park police officer sees a child wearing a helmet, they will receive a coupon to Dairyview for some ice cream. So that's an incentive right there to wear a helmet, on top of it being a safe way to ride a bike. So we encourage everybody to practice bicycle safety and wear a helmet. School is out for some of our students as of last week. The rest will be out this week. There are a lot of bike riders out enjoying the good weather. A lot of dog walkers out enjoying the good weather. Just encourage our drivers to be careful and patient and take their time while driving. There will be a lot of construction in the city here in the next few weeks and months ahead. And again, just to ask people to be patient with those projects, plan ahead, leave a little early to avoid any problems with their commute. And again, keep an eye out for kids on bikes and adults as well. There's a lot of people out enjoying the good weather. Friday, June 18th, it will be the last day of service for Lieutenant Dennis Wilson. Lieutenant Wilson has served as an officer here in Fairview Park for 32 years. He will be missed greatly. The department will miss his professionalism and dedication, and we wish him nothing but success and a long and safe retirement. Finance Department, I'd like to congratulate and thank Director Singal for all his work on a successful refunding of the Gemini Center bonds. That was completed, I believe, on May 26th. In 2022, it's on the previous refinancing. Our annual payment would have been $1.3 million on the bonds, and would have been rising every year to the point in 2030 where it would have been a $2 million payment. With this refinancing that was recently completed, we're going to have an annual payment through 2035 of a little over $1.3 million. So it's a much more manageable payment. I'd like to thank the director for all his work on over the years in looking at this, and then recently in getting it completed. as well as our municipal advisor, Matt Stuzinski, and Tim Reedy from Fifth Third, who helped us through this process. So thank you, gentlemen, for your work on that. As I think all of you know, we've changed our mask policy in conjunction with the changes from Governor DeWine. We've also opened up City Hall effective today. I will ask people to respect other people's wishes and actions as to how they want to handle a mask. If they're wearing it, that's a person's decision. And we ask that people respect that. We also ask that, continue to social distance when you can. And if you're not feeling well, to please not come to the Gemini Center, the Senior Center, or City Hall. There's other ways you can reach us if you need to conduct business. And if you're going to be using the Gemini Center or the Senior Center and you're not feeling well, again, we just ask that you stay at home till you feel better. Council President Kilbane, that concludes my report today. I want to thank everybody for all their work today on the legislation, and especially Council Clerk Westbrooks for all their work. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that report, Mayor Cooney. Okay, Director of Public Service and Development, Costello.
Thank you, President Kilbane. A quick update on the Bain Park restroom project. Materials RFP submissions are due this Friday. So we're looking forward to collecting those, and thank you to our community planner for putting that request for proposals together for us. Yard waste collection today in some areas of the city north of Lorraine Road have been delayed one day, and we had a heavy collection day. The midday rain didn't help with progress of collection, and so anyone whose yard waste was not collected today, it will be collected tomorrow. This is something that Kathleen Fan has put on social media and on her website. And if you haven't had a chance to check out our website, I strongly suggest that you take a look at the Text My Gov feature that Kathleen Fan worked hard to provide for us. It is an extremely easy app on your phone. It gives you instantaneous response that your complaint or question has been received and that someone will get back to you. It's a very powerful tool for us to use in the service department in helping us communicate with our residents. So big thank you to Kathleen for all her work to help us with that wonderful communication tool. And if you have any questions in that regard, please don't hesitate to contact me. And lastly, thank you for your support in all of our grant projects, but especially for our requests from the congressionally directed spending application process. Again, Monica Jordan, our community planner, is working diligently, but your support is certainly going to allow our requests to rise to the top of, I'm sure, a very big stack of other requests. And I just want to verbalize Chris Garrett's support of the Bain cabin improvements. I know she's listening tonight and had a little message in the chat box. So we appreciate her support in these efforts as well. So thank you all. And that concludes my report.
Thanks for that, Director. Finance Director Single.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening to you and all members of council. Just one item tonight. The 2020 audit continues. We're in the final stages. So hopefully within the next few weeks, that'll be finalized, and I will report to council the findings from the audit. And that concludes my report tonight. Hope everybody has a nice evening. Thank you.
Law Director Riley.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, everybody. I do not have a report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. City Engineer Kerber.
Thank you, Council President Kilbane. One thing to report tonight. Director Costello and I met with our subconsultant at Bain Park on the 26th to walk the site and show them the erosion issues. And they are working on their assessments And, we hope to have some preliminary information back in the near future. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you, engineer. Thank you. Okay, we've received a couple emails. I'm going to read them for public session this evening. First is from Rita Sotu, 20867 Fair Park Drive. Says, my husband and I would like to give a shout out to our service department. Recently, my husband has been clearing the tree damage behind our house. Having no way to dispose of the branches and other debris, I contacted our service department. Brooke McNeely immediately put us on a work order, and within a few days, all debris was cleared from our tree lawn. The men did a fine job, which was so appreciated. We would also like to give a shout out to Sergeant Jonathan Bandy for installing the radar service on our tree lawn, radar device on our tree lawn. The data was compiled from the device that had previously been installed on the telephone pole. It was interesting to note the number of vehicles that traveled down our street in a week's time, 9,749. Wow. 89% of traffic traveled during this time, 25 miles per hour or below. All of traffic during this time, 10.8% exceeded 25 miles per hour. The majority was below 35 miles per hour of all the traffic during this time. It's pretty good news. The chief indicated that there were spikes in traffic during this time between 6 and 7 a.m. and 2 and 5 p.m. It will probably be removed Wednesday. To note, traffic was light last week due to the torrential rainstorms. Also due to the Memorial Day holiday, traffic was about nil. The Sotus are really paying attention to the traffic on the street. Normal traffic data would probably have to be compiled and compared again in order to determine comparison figures. I'm not sure it would change anything, but good to know. They would also like to give shout outs to Mayor Cooney and Mary Kay Costello for their updates and reports on all the above. Also great to see everyone at the shredding event. Okay, so that was from Rita Sotu. The second email is from Denise Hall, 22410 Fairlawn Circle. She said, I have wrestled with how to say this for weeks because I don't think it's ever intentionally done. I probably wouldn't have said anything other than I have seen other people mention it from within the city also. I understand that there is a ranking and priority of how things are taken care of, but I think sometimes with answers when questions are asked during meetings, sometimes it's easy to forget that not everyone has access to the same luxuries in Fairview Park, especially in a pandemic era. Saying things like, we don't know if the other splash pads will even work, but we will see. While there seemed to be a Gemini Center plan in place to do this, this adds to the gap between those that have extra money to pay for things like a membership to a city recreation center or play on a team versus those who have only the free park. Saying we don't have a plan for the tennis courts at Wharton, but we are working on it, and saying just go to Tri-C to Tri-City as a plan, but that assumes someone with a car or the ability to walk all their kids there with them has that ability. Those are two that were brought up in discussions with other people I have talked with just in my neighborhood or overheard, but I know that there have been others I have heard when watching meetings or have even seen eyes roll when a question is asked. I understand that the Gemini Center is a priority because people pay for a service, but the parks are paid for also by the citizens, just in a different way. When I first moved to Fairview in the 80s, there was a huge divide between those that could do things and the people that who couldn't, who were looked down on because they couldn't afford to do the same things. We had gotten away from doing that and including more people in everything we did. Then we built the Gemini Center and we slowly seemed to move into dividing those that can afford and can't into what is taken care of and when. Again, I don't believe it's intentionally done. I think it's just easy to forget that some things are still luxuries. People in this city have been hurting during the pandemic. It was easy to forget while those that were okay through it complained about wearing masks. People lost their cars. People don't know what will happen with the eviction moratorium ends and they have exhausted their eligible help. People won't be able to pay for AC, so need the splash pads. People are still living hungry in our city that weren't that way before the pandemic. While it's not intentionally done, to chuckle and just drive somewhere else or go someplace you need to pay for is dismissive to people who are still members of this community. It should mean just as much to its survival. Okay, I'd like to thank Denise and Rita for both of those emails tonight. Okay, we will now have reports and miscellaneous business from members of council. Councilman Simmerly.
Thanks, Council President. Just one thing, I wanted to thank everyone that was involved in the Memorial Day services. It's a great way to start the day, and look forward to next year when there'll be hopefully more people there. So that's all I have tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Minnick.
Thank you, Council President. The Board of Control met on Tuesday, June 1st, 2021 at 3 p.m. via Zoom. One docket item. Approval for the purchase of equipment from Technology Install Partners, LLC, for the police department to facilitate the dispatch services collaboration with the city of North Olmsted. Police Chief Shepard stated, during times when our police department will be vacant, this equipment will allow North Olmsted Police Department to monitor our station via cameras inside and outside when an individual is present seeking assistance. A question was asked pertaining to prisoners in our facility, and the Chief Shepard stated an officer will always be present. Equipment includes a 16-channel hard drive, wire, a camera with wall bracket, door controller, relays, emergency phone, and labor. Total costs are $7,579.94. Approval of this purchase allows for the smooth transition of the dispatch collaboration between the cities of North Olmsted and Fairview Park. A motion to pay Technology Install Partners, LLC, the amount of $7,579.94 from Police Fund 611 was approved 5-0. This completes my report. Thank you.
Councilman Minnick, were you going to remove an issue from committee tonight as well?
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that, Council President.
Sorry.
I'd like to remove from further consideration, community development.
So moved. Do you have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? This would be removing the issue of community development from the Environment, Public Works, Planning, Zoning, and Development Committee. Okay, hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion to remove?
Mr. Simmerly.
Yes.
Mr. Minnick.
Yes.
Mrs. Adler.
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane.
Yes.
Mrs. Waring.
Yes.
Mrs. King.
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
Motion carries. The issue is removed from standing committee.
Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Minnick. Councilwoman Adler.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank both of the residents who took the time to write us. It's always helpful to both council and the administration to stay tuned into the thoughts and feelings and opinions of our residents. More knowledge is always best, and it never hurts us to, as I said, stay tuned into the eyes and ears and feelings of the residents in our community. So thank you to both of them. I'd also like to ask, I believe this would be directed to Mary Kay Costello. One of my neighbors just mentioned, we have the big utility boxes on tree lawns throughout the city that are shielded for the most part, by bushes, some in better shape than others. I didn't know if the city controls those boxes, because he commented in the University Circle area, these boxes are actually decorated. They're painted by some of the art students, that go to the schools. And I know Bridget had taken the initiative earlier in the year to have some of our Fairview High School art students share their talents, over at Bolkin Park. I didn't know if we control those boxes, if this potentially could be another project where we could highlight some of the talents of our high school students.
The boxes themselves are under the control of the utility, but
Okay.
I think we could at least ask, because it never hurts to ask, what the procedures are Each utility has a procedure. For example, the banners you see on utility poles, there's an application to First Energy's engineering department to put brackets on. So I would imagine there would be some procedure with AT&T for their boxes and any other. So I'll start with AT&T and pose the question, and we'll see what their response is.
Thank you. I'll have to go out to University Circle and check out what they look like. He was just praising them. I don't know if anyone has ever seen, noticed them. Bridget, Mike, you?
Yes.
Okay. So again, I think that it's a clever idea and potentially could, again, highlight some of the talent that we have in our community. So thank you, Mary Kay, or Director Costello. I'll get back with you on that.
Thank you.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Waring.
Thank you, Council President. Just one thing this evening. I'd like to make a motion to remove the issue of temporary political signs from the Local Government and Community Services Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call roll on the motion to remove?
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
The motion carries. The topic of temporary political signs is removed from standing committee. Councilwoman Waring, anything else?
Thank you, Council President. That was it.
Thank you. Councilwoman King.
Thank you, Council President. With the help of Clerk Westbrooks here, I'm going to show you the finished product from the art project at Bulkin Park. The juice box was done by Julia W., who's a junior, and the duck pond was done by Maggie R., who's a freshman. They look fantastic. It was a very fun project. We could not have done it without the donation of paint from Patent Painting, the art direction of Mr. Ryan Graff, who is one of the fantastic art teachers at the high school. I'd also like to thank Service Department Mike Varga for making sure that we had everything we needed to work on those days that we did, and made sure the cones were around the wet paint so no one would disturb it. And I wanted to also thank Mayor Cooney for being open to this project. I think that this is really a fun thing to do in the community. And Monica Jordan and Walt Maynard for their help and ideas in doing this as well. So this is our very first project that we did, and I think that it turned out really cute. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. And that's all for tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councilwoman King, and your young artist for helping to beautify the city. Thank you. Councilman Berger.
Yeah, two things. First, the Memorial Day for service up at the Fairview Park Cemetery, as Councilman Simmerly commented on. It was good turnout. It was really well attended. It was a nice event, and with that, I was wondering if the email from made it to the administration about the from the Legion Post 738 regarding the upkeep concerns.
Council President Kilbane, if I may.
Mayor Cooney, go right ahead.
Yeah, it's, yes, the Clerk Westbrook sent that to us, and I know Director Costello has, it's been looking at that, and earlier this evening sent me an email about that, and we're going to talk about it here in the next couple days. So we'll have an update. I know Councilman Minnick had also inquired about that as well, and I'll respond to Gary Schuld, who sent the email here to let him know where things stand, as well as council in the next few days. Okay, great. And yeah, thanks definitely to Gary for everything he's done as service and commitment still to the community. So then the other question I had was pertaining to the NASA buildings. Has occupancy permits or been issued for those yet? Do you know? Council President Kilbane?
Chair Cooney.
Okay, thank you. No, they have not. There's a lot of activity going on there. I know Commissioner Maynard and Assistant Commissioner Greer are up there all the time. We got some plans recently for those. I believe they're on the docket for BZA next Monday for some variances. Their goal is to have occupancy permits, certificates of occupancy for both buildings by the end of this year. And so we've been in contact with them. And I know they're in contact with the building department to try to move those things along. But they're in there. They're very busy working. We talked about it today with the commissioner, but their goal is to have the COs by the end of this year.
Okay, great. That's
Our
all I
goal-
have.
Our goal is to help them get there as well. So.
Very good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I just want to thank Council Clerk Liz Westbrooks for doing a great job of getting this agenda together and for getting here tonight. She's been dealing with pretty serious health issues over the last 3 or 4 days, and I don't feel much like being here tonight. So thanks, Liz. We appreciate it. The chair would like to announce that council met in executive session on May 17th and June 1st, 2021 for the following purposes: to consider the discipline of a public employee, conferences with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are subject to pending or imminent court action, and Section 5, matters required to be kept confidential by federal law or rules or state statutes. There being no further business to come before this council this evening, the chair will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please call roll on the motion to adjourn.
Mr. Simmerly,
Yes.
Mr. Minnick,
Yes.
Mrs. Adler,
Yes.
Mr. Kilbane,
Yes.
Mrs. Waring,
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Berger.
Yes.
Council's now adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Have a nice week.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks. Have a good night, everybody.